When Prismatic dropped, I think everyone collectively agreed that hunters have it best. And after spending a few days going through all the potentials and starting a build guide, Bungie decided to drop the exotic class items on us. I haven't been this excited to try out a build for as long as I can remember. While I don't think this has the raw damage potential of some of the other builds that we currently have available, for solo content and raid encounters without DPS checks, I think that this could potentially have the highest uptime and highest survivability on any build we've ever seen. I know that's a pretty high bar, and I'll stop gushing about the build now and actually get into the details. I'll start the aspects and then move into the specifics of the setup. First up, we have Stylish Executioner, where killing an enemy with any elemental debuff grants us a few seconds of invisibility. It also gives our next charged melee attack a guaranteed weaken on hit. All of this is offset by the 2 Stylish debuff, and it's essentially just a 2-second cooldown. Originally on Night Stalker, this only worked with void debuffs, so weakened, suppressed, or volatile. On Prismatic, however, we know that it works with any elemental debuff, and the big one that we'll be getting into is Jolted, and to a lesser extent Unraveled. For our second slot, I've opted with Threaded Spectre, where dodging creates a strained clone that draws aggro and explodes into Threadlings either when enemies kill it or they get too close. It's pretty widely known how good the taunt that the clone provides is, with enemies strictly choosing to attack it instead of you. For us, this functions as almost a second invisibility, like an upgraded version of Vanishing Step. I'm going to break the traditional order of these videos and talk about the melee next, and that's because it's the most important part of this build. Combination Blow by itself is already super strong. Unlike other abilities, it's only consumed on melee kill, where it grants a full dodge recharge, begins health regeneration, and grants a stack of bonus melee damage for 20 seconds. This bonus starts at 60%, moves to 156% at 2 times, and 309% at 3 stacks. The general loop on Arc Hunter involves using Lethal Current to chain jolting combination blows and restoring the cooldown through Gambler's Dodge. This build kinda takes that loop and cranks it up to 11. Obviously for dodge, we're using Gambler's Dodge for the melee looping. This loop also has the effect of not needing to run high mobility, and that's an issue that hunters struggle with a lot. Hunters are the only class in Destiny where their class ability is tied to a nearly useless stat in mobility. Resilience for Titans and Recovery on Warlocks are both super useful, and hunters often find themselves spreading too thin and losing out on the survivability. This, however, means that they're balanced around not always having high resilience and recovery, and they're usually given extra options to play without them. Because we don't need the high mobility, however, we can exploit combining the two together. Now that we have the main elements down, I want to run through the general gameplay loop and bring all of these pieces together. Because we don't have an elemental debuff tied to our melee for getting the first proc of Stylish Executioner down, we're going to substitute that with a Voltshot weapon. If you don't have a good one yet, now is the best time to do it. Subjunctive, the lightweight SMG from Season of the Wish, is a personal favourite of mine, and Indebted Kindness from Warlord's Ruin is the quote-unquote meta option. Some other great weapons here with Voltshot include Brigand's Law from Season of the Plunder, and the Unkillable SMG from Season of the Seraph. This can also be farmed from Operation Seraph's Shield, and this mission will be in rotation next week, so go check out our solo runs on both normal and legend, and the link for those will be in the description. Anyway, using a Voltshot weapon to proc Stylish Executioner also has the added effect of nullifying its cooldown to Stylish. And that's because you'll be wanting to kill a red bar at mid-range, reload, shoot the enemy in front of you, and then melee them, and all of which takes about 2 seconds. Getting this melee kill will give us all of the bonuses of Combination Blow, as well as the invisibility and next melee weaken from Stylish Executioner. After going through this combo, you can dodge using the regen cooldown, which breaks invisibility but restores your Combination Blow, and also drops a Threaded Spectre to take aggro and spawn Threadlings. If you repeat this loop, in which you don't even need to proc Stylish Executioner again, I do think it's good practice, however, because it does help with ad clear and survivability. Anyway, repeating the loop will give more damage to Combination Blow, begin health regen, and spawn yet another Threaded Spectre. So all in all, you're consistently proccing health regen, building a huge and long-lasting melee damage buff, and dropping tons of Spectres and in turn Threadlings. Now, how can we make this even better? I know you're probably not asking that, but we can, so we will. For Grenade, we're going to run Grapple. Some people don't know that the grapple melee actually counts as a melee ability on top of being a grenade. The boosted damage from Combination Blow should therefore stack with it. This means that grapple acts as a multi-purpose utility and damage tool that can be used to keep the chain going by grappling into another group of enemies or by meleeing a big target like a champion. However, I can tell you with some confidence that killing with it won't count as a Combination Blow melee, and it'll only take the bonus damage and nothing extra. Still, we've now got the best mobility tool in the game, with hugely boosted damage, in our back pocket. Our super choice here kinda comes to personal preference, pick your poison. We've got variations of both of the most viable options through the exotic class item, and we'll get into those a little bit later. For super, I recommend going either with Silkstrike and Strand or Deadfall, Tether and Void. It's pretty situational which one you pick, but knowing that Prismatic Fragments work based off of the element of your super, I'm probably going to be going with Silkstrike in most content, or at least until I get Cytorachne in my class item. Now, why is our super choice so important here? Well, specifically, Facet of Purpose, which states that when picking up an Orb of Light, which you will be generating through Heavy-Handed, Reaper, Firepower, or even all three, grants an elemental buff based on the element of your super. For Strand, that's Woven Mail, and for Void, that's Void Overshield. And both are great survivability tools that grant varying levels of damage resist. General public opinion is that Woven Mail is kinda better, because it's linked directly to its timer and not to your health, like with Void Overshield. I really do think that it is personal opinion, because Void Overshield gives you a slight health bump and more overall damage resistance at 50%, but it does expire when you lose the overshield. Woven Mail, on the other hand, gives 45%, lasts a set amount of time with no other conditionals. Now I'm going to use this time quickly to go into the rest of the fragments for this build, and they all kind of complement the general playstyle pretty well. First off, Facet of Dawn, which is just Ember of Torches. Powered melee hits give you Radiant, with powered kills extending that to your nearby allies as well. It's great all around, I think it fits any build. A 35% weapon damage buff is useful in every circumstance. Facet of Protection. Having 3 or more enemies within 15 meters gives damage resistance. On paper, it's the same as the Arc Fragment Spark of Resistance. While we don't know the specific percent of damage reduction, we can safely assume that it's probably pretty similar to its Arc counterpart, which gives 25% flat. Because this is a melee build, this is another no-brainer. It's something that I actually miss when I'm playing Strand Titan, and I mean Woven Melee is great, but being able to stack just a little bit more DR for no real effort is super nice. Finally, assuming we only have 4 slots, is Facet of Balance, where Rapid Light kills restore melee energy, and Rapid Dark kills restore grenade energy. This functions both as a safety net in case we mess up our melee chain and lose the dodge, as well as a really nice boost to our grenade regen through Threadlings, or our kinetic slot weapon, which we'll cover a little bit later. If we have more than 4 fragment slots, I think another great choice is Facet of Bravery, where grenade kills give our void weapons volatile rounds, and melee kills give unraveling rounds to Strand weapons. This lets us squeak out some bonus damage through void heavy weapons like Edge Transit or any of the void machine guns. This could also see some use with what I believe to be the current best in-slot weapon for this build, which is Swordbreaker. While of course in the final shape we'll have tons of new guns to play with, I think Swordbreaker is going to be a really tough one to beat because of the perfect selection of perks as well as a really nice origin trait in Cursed Thrall. Now, you don't need Swordbreaker to use this build. I know a lot of people struggle to both get into raids and also to farm for the craftable version of weapons. Therefore, any kinetic slot 1-2 punch shotgun could work, be it Wastelander, Swordbreaker, or even something like the Ragnhild D. These are all great options. Swordbreaker just has the most synergy with this build at the moment. Also, a case could definitely be made that Wastelander or Ragnhild combined with Facet of Grace would be an equally viable side grade. Facet of Grace gives you bonus Transcendence energy on kinetic weapon damage, and super kills grant you and allies extra Transcendence energy. Also, when using Combination Blow, Unpowered Melee, or Grapple Melee, 1-2 Punch increases the bonus from 100% to 150%, stacking even more damage onto our melees as opposed to the 100% boost that you'd see on something like Frenzied Blade. Now the cherry on top, the coup de grace for this build, exotic class items. Bungie recently revealed all of the combinations we can get in the latest TWID. They also revealed that they'll be farmable. We don't know how hard they'll be to farm, but I recommend going through and getting a ton because they seem super strong. For the first column, I think this build meshes really well with 3 options, and I'll tell you what they are and I'll explain each one individually. First up, Spirit of the Foe Tracer, where defeating a powerful combatant or guardian with an ability grants weapons matching that ability's element a large damage buff, which I'll assume is a tier 4 surge or a 25% damage boost. I really thought about taking Spirit of the Inmost Light, which states that when using an ability, your other 2 abilities get bonus energy regen, and it's okay. It only really works to further our safety net and give us better grapple cooldowns, but it seems like it'll be a better fit on other builds. Finally, I decided on taking Spirit of Caliban, where powered melee final blows trigger an explosion. Given the way this works with Throwing Knife, we could potentially see explosions based on the elements of our abilities, maybe like a blinding explosion on Arc or a severing explosion on Strand. Even if it doesn't work like that, it's still a pretty big boost to our AoE damage. Now for the second column, again there's some really good choices. Given that Liar's Handshake has a specifically nerfed interaction with 1-2 Punch where it cuts the boosted damage pretty significantly, Spirit of the Liar needs to be tested. Remember how earlier I was talking about running Deadfall Tether of the Silkstrike? Well, Spirit of the Cytorachne definitely boosts your survivability, and it's probably providing a solution for a problem that doesn't actually exist yet. Being able to just have Woven Mail whenever you use Grapple or any other grenade is a huge bump to your total damage resist, and it's especially so if you pair it with Void Overshield. Now, while those options exist, I think that none of them compare to the Spirit of the Synthoceps, where you get bonus melee damage while surrounded. Now, Synthoceps have been through a whole heap of nerfs and adjustments, so I won't blame you for not knowing the current stats that these give. Currently, Synthoceps give 165% bonus melee damage. I think it's pretty safe to assume that we might be seeing the full damage boost given to these class items, but only time will tell. So, a hyper-aggressive melee build with some absurd stats and capabilities for both high single target damage and above average ad clear. It's very snowbally, it's about keeping up procs and chains, but luckily these uptime numbers are pretty high. It's actually pretty low maintenance and easy to play, and it's easy to establish a rhythm for. I'm really excited to try this out, and it'll probably be my first build on Hunter once Final Shape drops. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Please let us know any thoughts or opinions on the build in the comments below. Also, sometime soon we'll be releasing a video outlining some of the updates to the Warlock and Titan Prismatic builds now that we've got the exotic class item list. And don't forget to like and subscribe.